Hello and welcome to the second part of our lecture on Warriors of Chaos. Last time we talked about the active way of making your economy work as Warriors of Chaos. This time we're going to be talking about the passive income, which is the traditional way of building your economy. Passive income is key for your success as Chaos Warriors. No matter which lord you play, in this chapter, I will talk about passive income and research, since those two things are very much connected. First thing you should always build in any Dark Fortress is your income building. Second thing is, depending if you have the Nurgle gift, Bloom of Decay, this Nurgle gift, combined with the fact that you will be having lots of battles each turn, allows you to avoid having to build the growth building. In fact, a quick way to see if someone is at least a decent Warriors of Chaos player or not is looking at their buildings. If they build the growth building past turn 25, then they have no idea what they're doing. The only exception to this is the lords that do not have access to Nurgle gifts. Those lords will have to prioritize getting salt and building growth. The only reason to have the growth buildings as a faction with access to Nurgle gifts is 1. You do not have the Nurgle gift yet, 2. You are trying to finish the Karanex quest. After that gift is active, you should demolish your growth buildings and build Chaos Shrine, aka Chaos Sorcerer building. The first reason is obvious. 30% income from buildings is great, but the second and more important reason will be explained right after we are done talking about construction. What's next? In the order of priority, Chaos Warrior building in order to increase your Exalted Hero capacity, and you can keep this one at tier 2 for some time, since this one doesn't have any benefits besides increasing how many Chaos Warriors you can store. So let's say you're in mid-game, you upgraded your settlements to 3 and new ones coming up to tier 3. At this point, you may be a bit strained for cash, but do not fret. As long as you're upgrading your units and recruiting newer and better ones with your recruiter lords, there's no AI that can get in your way, with just a little practice. Just make sure not to recruit too much. You need just enough to not take card losses, otherwise you're throwing money away that can be used in construction. Next things you build are pretty obvious. Chaos Knights and the other income increasing building. Keep upgrading your money buildings, and that's all there is to it when it comes to construction. It's the same template everywhere, except when you need some garrison building against rebellions as we talked about, or PvP attacks. Around turn 20, I also recommend recruiting a seafaring force of marauders, cavalry, and some trolls off of the northern waste. This army will be collecting sea treasures. You may think, why do we care about the sea treasures? Well, there is one in particular that can single-handedly hand us the keys to economic prosperity for the rest of the game and make already good return on investment numbers much better. Let me introduce you to Materials at Sea. Income plus 10% from all regions, pretty good, and 30% discount to construction in all regions for 5 turns. Combined with the fact that at this stage in the game, you should have the Nurgle gift and picking up steam on multiple fronts, you should be able to upgrade everything and put yourself way ahead of the competition. This one is a Risen Isle type treasure and can spawn anywhere that the treasures can spawn. In general, I would suggest you take any treasure that is in your way, because they are good in general, and the more you take, the more of them will respawn. Now watch out for the seafaring pirate factions, so do not sail too close to them, but if you lose this army, it's fine, just raise another and keep sailing. You do not even need a 20 stack, but 20 stack of weak units is recommended. Now let's talk about the thing that makes Chaos great: research. Chaos is actually the most research-focused faction in the game. Their faction mechanic of gifts relies on it. An End of the Tree gives massive buffs to aspiring champions that turn them from a meh unit to something that eats Chosen for breakfast, and just about anything else. As Warriors of Chaos, your research should be around 10 times the turn count on average. This number is easier to achieve with Archaon and Be'lakor, but that is my personal standard that I like to set, and something that is easy to achieve mid-game onwards until you complete your research tree around turn 50 and 60. The key to doing that is the Chaos Shrine we talked about. The Chaos Shrine is the building that will supercharge your research. What you need to do after you build this is immediately recruit as many Chaos Sorcerers as you can from your bordering provinces. The school does not matter. Preferably the increased XP gain trade, but that's optional. What you will do next is send them out into the world and position them between two settlements that are close to each other, which belong to a non-vassalized, non-allied faction. What you will do next is use steel research every turn on those settlements running between those. Just alternate between those two settlements. The reason we need two is because settlements get a buff to their agent action resistance after a successful agent action. This is also the reason you may not want to vassalize everything in your way and strategically leave some holes in your conquests for you to steal technology from. Now you might be wondering, wait a minute, so you're saying I should have 400 points of research on turn 40? That's crazy! No, that is the power of chaos. Since you should build sorcerer capacity increase in every Dark Fortress and it's a tier 2 building, and you should have close to 20 fortresses around turn 20 with a good opener, that means that you can actually have 900 points of technology each turn off of tech steal. You may wonder, how am I adding up 20 sorcerers to steal 40 points each when steel tech is only 20 points of research? It is if you do not spec into it. After you level up your sorcerers, again by stealing technology repeatedly every turn, you can get a trait that gives you +5 research, skill tree for another 10, and adding the student ancillary that you can get when you level up. Do not worry, you do not need to succeed every time because one steel tech buff lasts for multiple turns and stacks by duration. So just keep stealing technology and you will fly through your tech tree in no time. Finally, for today, I'll talk about technology. What do you actually research? Generally, your research path should be sensible. Start with going towards Nurgle to get the Bloom of Decay, and then Slaanesh for Profit for Pleasure, and then Tzeentch for Forbidden Knowledge, and personally here I like to go into the 2 Undivided Gifts because they are right there, and I want to start spamming Hell Cannons and Shaggoths, but a good option here instead is going for Khorne for the post-battle loot. As what I said implies, you are getting 1 gift from each god and focusing on passives, because we want to start our economy train going by farming rebellions as quickly as possible. Then we get our undivided gifts if you have not done so already, and after all that, you should get the second Slaanesh gift for 35% movement, for 15% upkeep faction-wide. Kind of obvious, this is compounded by the fact that Slaanesh gifted units are the worst among all 4, but the passives are the best. You should now have started farming rebellions and expanding in multiple fronts like a plague, capturing all dark fortresses that you can get your hands on. Nothing else matters at this point. Outside of a select few factions, there's nothing that can stop you in the late game. If you're fighting against those, then you should probably send a raiding army there to sack some of their undefended settlements to disrupt their tempo. When you get your last undivided gift, you should start what is known as gift swapping. As the name implies, all you do with this is sinking souls into putting gifted units into our gifted units pool, much like the Empire State Troops. The sooner you do it, the better, since to unlock the higher gifts you will need to have invested a certain amount of souls for that god. By the time you unlock them, you should have no problems with souls as a currency, as long as you are expanding and fighting as much as possible. Fortunately, there is no shortage of enemies, no matter which faction you start as. So each turn, you should be swapping between 2 best gifts for each god and undivided past your opener. For Khorne, I prefer Skullbrute and Bloodthirster. For Nurgle, I prefer Soulgrinder and Toad Dragon, but I do like to have at least 1 Shrine of Nurgle per army for obvious reasons. Slaanesh, I do not swap because they are passive gifts. For Undivided, I go Hell Cannon and Shaggoth. Tzeentch, Mutalith, and a Lord of Change or Changebringers, depending on what I'm fighting. On the next lecture, I'll be talking about battlefield tactics, exalted heroes, and ascending your lords.